We're live, we're live, we're live, we're live, we're live, we're live. I think we're live. We're live. We're live. We might be live. We are live. Definitely still live, right? Hello. Welcome, everybody, to Against the Fence, where, of course, this is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC. Welcome on in. We are going to recap the events from this past weekend's 308, UFC 308, Topuria versus Holloway, as well as, let's get some talking points up, as well as some other predictions for the fighters, both winners and losers from this past weekend as well. Bit of a shaky start this morning. This evening. Someone had to get up a little bit earlier this morning, and Chaz are coming in. Do you know what it is? Because I thought I'd ended the stream by accident, and I really shat myself for a second. Good afternoon from Dallas, Brother B. Welcome on in, Breezy. Thanking you. Yes, we are live. We are live. Lots to discuss. If I'm a bit laggy, it might be something to do with my camera, to be honest, because I've had issues connected to my laptop earlier, which isn't good. All sorts of issues coming off of the back of crazy weekend, delivering smooth watch along for you guys. So cool, smooth watch along. Must apologise to some of our dear friends in the chats. It was a bit chaotic during the watch along at the weekend. Lots going on. Spinning wheel was all over the place. Fights that we were watching were all over the place as well. So there was a lot to digest. But thanks for sticking with us and keeping it real, guys. Yeah, as we were going to say, we're going to talk about Topuria being potential fighter of the year. We'll talk about what's next for Khamzat Chimaev. Should it be Dricus du Plessis or should it be Sean Strickland? And how that whole scenario thing is going to play out, because it's a bit chaotic there. Some people think that Khamzat might skip the queue and Strickland might get bypassed. So we'll get into that. And we'll get into Lerone Murphy's path to the top of the UFC's featherweight division, because that's going to be interesting as well. He's still undefeated following his victory against Dan Ige this past weekend, and the future's bright for him. So we've got some updated rankings from that division, which we'll get into a little bit later on as well as Shara Magomedov making his debut in the UFC's middleweight division. So hit that like button, buckle up, guys. Let's go through things bit by bit. Got to, of course, go through some honorable mentions. Any standout fights for you guys in the prelims? Mateus Rebecki versus Midrubik or Orobai was a phenomenal back and forth war. Fight of the night, hands down, without a doubt. Man, tough to call. I thought that maybe perhaps Rebecki had lost it in the end, but he just about pulled it through, I think. Finat Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leo was a bit controversial, I felt. I mean, I was in the midst of setting everything up at the time. When you're nearly getting ready to go live. So, yeah, that was a bit of a handful. Was gutted to see 2 injuries in the prelims as well. We didn't really get to see much of the Jeff Neal Rafael dos Anjos fight. Unfortunately, I think Rafael dos Anjos blew his ACL again, I think, because he's already had that injury before. And Chris Barnett also done his leg in with a spinning wheel kick. And after that fight, some suggested that perhaps Chris Barnett had done it in during Bruce Buffer announcing him, but he shut that down on social media afterwards and said he didn't injure himself then, and it was all fake news. So there you go. Brother B says fighter of the year still belongs to Alex. Can't wait to get into that. Bit of a debate. Shout outs to George Murray for helping on this topic as well. Yet again, 2 aftermaths in a row. I mean, George just literally just can't help it. You know, it's like he can't wait for the aftermath show on Tuesday. As soon as the event wraps up, he's sending us messages about these types of things, and gotta love the enthusiasm and the level of how passionate he is for this sport, and look, he just can't wait to get into it. But we're gonna get into it tonight. Nonetheless, it will come. Let's head on into recapping then some of the events from the main card. That was a bit on the prelims. Ooh, wrong bit. Kicking off the main card, though, Shara Bullet remains undefeated in the middleweight division. 15-0 now. Petrosian was a very good test for him coming into this. And when this fight got announced, I thought, Shara's really going to get pushed here. And I did expect Petrosian to push him, and he pressured him from early on with constantly attacking the lead leg of Shara. And Shara likes to kind of stay on the outside all the time and kind of pick his shots from the outside, and he does a lot of movement as well. And he did quite well, felt, with that. He started to take over the fight in round 2 more so. The judges did actually score the first round to Shara, which I thought was quite surprising at the time. Oh, looking back at the judges' scorecard, should I say, because I felt that Petrosian may have edged it there. But I guess everyone's main question now for Shara. I mean, what a knockout first, I should probably mention. I mean, it was something out of Tekken, right? If you've ever played the Street Fighter or Tekken games, I think I've seen social media clips already of people putting edits together where it looks like Shara is in the game of Tekken and he's doing some like double spinning back fist. Like, it was just incredible to see. And look, a good finish for him as well. I think he's had some decisions. He's not had, he's not finishing everybody he comes across. He took Olashejuk to a decision. I thought he was going to finish him, I think, in that fight. But, all right, he's still got Fight of the Night honours in that one. Tikio Tricoli, performance of the night there. And then his debut against Bruno Silva, where he won a decision, was also a tough fight for him. Tough debut for him at the time. So, look, props to him. And if we head on into the rankings, as we can see, it fits in quite nicely there at number 14. Unfortunately, Chris Curtis has fallen out of the rankings, but he will get his, I think it's mostly due to inactivity, perhaps. We've not seen Chris in a little while. He's been troubling with some injuries, and the birth of his new son as well has been a part of that. So, fingers crossed we get to see him back pretty soon, and a fight for another chance to get himself back in there, though. Chris is going to be pretty bummed out by that. Having spoken to Chris before, we've seen what he's like on social media after a loss as well. He's going to be annoyed, but look, I think he's going to get more opportunities. It's fine, Chris. It's all good, brother. It's all good. Yes, Captain Raf. What's good, fellas? Raf in the building. Yes, Raf. Captain Raf says Shara and Shamaev still undefeated. I think Shara was watching a film study and he understood the assignment, and he took like a lot of time of training and practice. Yeah, you definitely saw that. He dealt with Petrosian's kicks quite well. And it's crazy because I've been playing back some of Joe Rogan's Fight Companion on my commutes to work and stuff. And they were saying that it's just crazy how someone like Shara has got the cardio that he has, being such a kick-orientated fighter, and the kicking does take a lot more energy out than any other attack that you present a fighter. But he's kind of said, well, if you are constantly developing your kicks, then I guess the cardio comes with it as well. And it's a good point. So, yeah, we don't see mass amounts of slowing down from Shara. He still kind of brings that threat there and is a very difficult target to tag. But what is next for him? Should he receive a ranked opponent next? Absolutely. Who should that opponent be? Well, I've got Paulo Costa in there at the moment, and he hasn't been on the best of runs. He kind of needs a fight someone lower down, you know, because I think the UFC have been giving him a lot of handouts of fighters that are ranked above him, despite the fact he's been losing. And for me, I think someone like Shara would be the perfect redemption fight for him, someone who's undefeated. On the other hand, from the UFC's perspective, we know what they're like. We know how they've dealt with fighters in the past, especially fighters who have really been pushing to get their money's worth, yet have not really shown it in their performances. And I would say that Paulo Costa fits in that kind of category. Not trying to say that the UFC are trying to push Paulo Costa out of their roster, because he's still fairly entertaining. He's good on social media. He has his moments. But it could very well come, you know, down the line, especially with the recent run that he's on. So, look, I think the UFC will give him someone like a Shara Magomedov. What do you reckon, guys? Smash a like on the video. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you agree with that option, or would you prefer to see another option? Or do you prefer that maybe Paulo Costa needs to fight somebody else in the middleweight rankings? But, I mean, we're going to touch upon the middleweight rankings again a little later on when we talk about Khamzat Chimaev and Robert Whittaker. I mean, big jump there for Chimaev, as we can all see. Yeah, Paulo Costa ranked in at number 11, a few spots above Shara. The reason why I've not given him anyone else is because I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony Hernandez versus Brendan Allen. I think that's a much fun matchup than Shara Magomedov and Brendan Allen, or Shara Magomedov and Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez and Brendan Allen are both good grapplers, and I feel like both guys are fairly strong on the feet as well. So I think that contest could be a 5-round fight night main event, would be one to watch out for. Roman Dolidze, he's coming off of a win against Kevin Holland. Bit of a weird win, though, I felt. Holland did get injured in that fight and was fighting a ranked guy when he wasn't even ranked in middleweight. So for Dolidze, maybe the UFC might give him someone ranked below. They obviously can't give him Jack Hermansson because he already beat Hermansson. Hermansson might fight up. Personally, Dolidze Cannonier would be cool. Perhaps. Would the UFC do Shara against Jack Hermansson? Maybe, but the thing is I felt that the UFC were trying to use Jack Hermansson as a stepping stone for Joe Pyfer. Hermansson fought a very smart fight against Joe Pyfer, and that's the reason why I don't think the UFC will want to give Shara Hermansson. Hermansson's going to stick on the outside. Shara's going to try and stick on the outside. It's going to be a bit weird, a bit chaotic. Hermansson's just kind of going to keep moving the whole time and barely engage and maybe shoot for a takedown. So, yeah. Other than that, you can't do Hermansson versus Vettori. We've already seen that. Yeah. 2020, that was it. So, I don't know. It's a bit lackluster down at the bottom there. But anyhow, moving on then to what's next for Armen Petrosyan, who is on another setback. He's now 2-3 in the UFC. It is cutting season, but I think he's just missed out on cutting season. Man, they cut a few people. The Spain being one of them today. You know, after such an explosive start to his UFC career and then falling short in his last two, they've got rid of him. I mean, look, I think the UFC will pave the way for him to return. However, I think it's just a good time for him to go back to local circuit again. You know, get a bit more experience under his belt, and then he'll return to the UFC. Daniel Pineda was another person they cut as well. And it's just going off the top of my head. So, I don't know. Who knows? I think Petrosyan should stick around. Personally, I would give him Marc-Andre Barrieux versus Dustin Stoltzfus winner, and that fight happens this coming weekend at UFC Fight Night, Moreno versus Albazi. So, yeah, and then he loses that, 3-3. Then then you might think it's cutting season. Smash a like on the video, folks, if you've not done so already. Do you know what? I think there definitely... Oh, no, there isn't. I thought there was an issue with the chats again. Yeah, let's take on back then to the second fight on the main card. The Brit, Lerone Murphy, remains undefeated as well. He came back from a tough first round against Dan Ige. I think he got dropped as well, right? And Ige came into this fight looking like he was coming for blood in there. Secured an excellent double leg as well on Murphy. But look, Murphy stuck with it, man. He really shone in rounds 2 and 3. I don't think that Ige showed too much signs of slowing down. I think that Lerone was able to kind of mix up his offense a little bit more in rounds 2 and 3, and clearly got a massive telling to in his corner at the time. The ultimate question for him, we all know, is, like I said at the start of the video, here is what is next for Lerone Murphy, but also what is his path to the top of the division. Shao Breezy, who says Mateus Nicolai went today too. Yeah, that's another one as well, actually. Yeah, I missed out. That's a sort of quite a surprising one in the flyweight division. Didn't expect that at all. Yeah, what can we expect from Lerone Murphy? What does his path look like, guys? Get some predictions in the chats or in the comment section as well. How do you see his rise to the top? Or do you think he's going to perhaps lose next year? Do you think that he's going to get paired up with someone that's a little bit too tricky and fall short? He won't get fast-tracked to the top at all by any means because he's not finishing guys. He's going to get a similar treatment to Arnold Allen. You know, it's crazy to think that once upon a time, Arnold Allen finished Gilbert Melendez, former Strikeforce champion, and you know, straight after that win, you felt that maybe he was going to push his way up the rankings quite quick, and he didn't. And I think Lerone is getting the same treatment here, without a doubt. So the options that I'm giving him are going to be, as he moves up to number 11, one spot above Giga Chikadze now, which is somebody you could give, but I've missed out on my list. Mentioned it on the weekend. I said that I felt Calvin Kattar was the ideal matchup for him. Another boxing-orientated fighter. Oh, camera's gone off. I think that is because... Yeah. I think that is because my connection to it. What's going on? I'd connect. Pretty sure I connected it to my phone. And it's timed out. Strange. Oh well. We'll get with it. We'll stick with it, like. Dial that down a bit. There we go. There we go. Where was I? Yeah, Calvin Kattar, great hands, great movement, quite big, I think, for featherweight as well. He's coming off a loss against Aljamain Sterling, and he's also riddled with injuries as well. So that also makes me a little bit worried about booking that particular fight. The other option for Lerone could be Movsar Evelev versus Aljamain Sterling loser, because the winner of that fight is going to go on to big things. Potential title contention in 2025. That fight, I think, is happening. Isn't it happening at the end of the year? Yes, 310 in December. As long as it all goes through, because this is the second time that fight's been made. Josh Emmett would also be a potential one for next year for Lerone. It depends how well his management team deal with him, I guess. Because say if you beat Calvin Kattar, you've not really gone up another spot. Really, it doesn't really do much movement. With the UFC, do Brit versus Brit, Arnold Allen. I think Arnold Allen's going to fight Yair Rodriguez. He wants that fight. If Allen loses, though, you would open it up, right, for Lerone versus Allen. Or you also got Brian Ortega in the mix. Didn't look particularly great in his last one. He's been around the game for some time, and that would be a true test for Lerone. puts you in just out of top 5 though still. And then after that, there probably would be no one else really. Providing that Ilia Topuria is going to keep the belt off of, I mean, we'll get to the matchups a little bit later on. There could be a title contention spot for Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy could end up being on some people's ones to watch for next year. But it's a struggle because he's not finishing dudes. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, would you give him an Ivoyev? Is Ivoyev a winnable fight for him? I'm not too sure. I'm still intrigued by how he's going to look against Aljamain Sterling. You want to give him you want to feed another Brit to Max Holloway? I mean, we still don't know what's going to happen with Max Holloway. I personally think what Max should do is stick at lightweight. Hopefully, the UFC will still keep him in the rankings, though. I was thinking the UFC could take him out if he goes to lightweight and stays there and says that he's going to stay there. I don't know, man. I don't know. Reeza says Lerone versus Emmett. Like, I don't want to see the guy flatlined, but it could be a good one. Yeah. Let's move that chat over, shall we? Yeah, there is that risk against Emmett. What? And when was Emmett's last one? Surely it's not the win against Bryce Mitchell. He's another fighter in this division who's just riddled with injuries. Yeah, it was Bryce Mitchell. UFC 296. That was literally nearly a year ago. Come on, Emmett. Let's get you back in there. I know Emmett featured on someone's podcast recently. I think Breezy watched it. I have not caught it, but I think Emmett reveals his reasons for not having a fight booked just yet in there. But maybe we can find that out. So yeah, Josh Emmett would be a good one too. But yeah, anyone in that top 5 I think is going to get really tricky for Lerone. It's difficult to book him up against any of them, really. More on the featherweight division to come, of course, when we get into the end of the show, when we talk about Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway. Breezy says it is not been on since end of last year. No, that's right. That's right. Let's head on back. Oh, actually, head on back. No, we'll talk about what's next for Dan Ige still. Got an excellent fight for Ige. I think for making the walk. That's it. Cheers, Breezy. Excellent fight for Dan Ige next. You got to give him Steve Garcia. 17-5 as a professional. 5-fight win streak. All of them have been knockouts. His last victim was Kyle Nelson back in September. Both guys can crack. There you go. You're welcome, Hunter Campbell. You're welcome, Dana White. Put it on a pay-per-view as well. Have that, whether you want it headline in the prelims, whether you want it opening the main card, whatever. Put that contract down and let's get it signed ASAP. The other option that I had for Ige would be the winner of Woodson versus Padilla, which that fight got announced literally, yesterday or the day before? That's scheduled for December 14th. So timing could very well match up quite well there. Man, we're making fights over here. We're making some banging fights over here. This is what we do against the fence on these Aftermath shows. So make sure you've got the notifications bell rang on our channel so you know when we're live, when we're hitting your screens, your tablets, your phones, your TVs, wherever it is, and get in with the conversation, whether you're tuning in the next day in the comments or you are tuning in live as well, but preferably live. You want to join live, right? This is where there's discussions at. So, yeah, smash like on the video as well if you've not done so already, if I've not mentioned that. Let's head on back to the third fight of the evening. In the light heavyweight division, as Magomed Ankalaev picks up yet another win. What did you guys make of his overall performance? I mean, he's just a typical kind of steady Eddie kind of fighter, really. He barely shows any weaknesses in there. He stays technical the whole time, and he picks people apart in there. And what he did to Rakic was he got Rakic freezing up a little bit at times. He got Rakic moving backwards the whole time and really right, his head movement stayed on point. He avoided the strikes pretty well, and Rakic just didn't get his combinations going. The threat of the takedown is always there for Magomed Ankalaev, but he's not taken down his last two opponents, which is crazy. We all talk about Magomed Ankalaev being this wrestle-heavy opponent, but he's standing up with dudes. He knocked out Johnny Walker, but he stood with Rakic the whole 3 rounds and outclassed him. But in getting the fight with Alex Pereira, has he been not taking people down on purpose because he wants Alex to stand up and trade and make himself vulnerable a little bit? I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that Ankalaev is going to, as soon as that door closes and Herb Dean or Mark Goddard, whoever's the referee at the time, claps his hands to start the timer, Magomed Ankalaev is going to close that distance, put Pereira on the back foot, and go for a takedown within a matter of seconds, within the first minute. It's obvious. But can Pereira survive it is a question, really. We've all worried about it. I think if you're an Alex Pereira fan, you're definitely worried about it. It was, especially after the Jan Blachowicz fight, because that was a very close fight. Jan Blachowicz was able to get him down, didn't do too much offense, and Pereira had little moments in those rounds which were able to score him the round. I think you're going to need the same again against Magomed Ankalaev. I don't want to put... I hope that Pereira does knock him out. I do. I really do. And I think it is for the sake of the sport, really. I mean, it's hard to say. He's doing his best. All I was to say is Ankalaev's doing his best. Bilal Muhammad's an absolute, machine. He's a monster. He really is, to be truthfully honest. But I'm just saying these things going off of what I see on social media, what I see other fans saying, and people are falling off the sport a little bit if you've got these fighters who are grappling heavy, not great on the mic, not overall entertaining personalities, and it does hurt the UFC a little bit. And you can kind of tell that they've kind of tried to and sidestep Ankalaev in the past, and we've talked about it many a time on the show. I think that the time is now that the UFC make that fight. They're going to have to bite the bullet like they did with Bilal and just make the fight happen. I think it will happen later on in the year. I can't remember what the time frame of when Pereira wants to get back in there. I mean, he's had a very active year. And we're going to get into that again in a sec as well. So maybe he should return a little bit later, but we'll see. Rankings-wise then, Yuri's gone down a spot. I thought Ankalaev was number 1 from the get-go, but clearly not. He's perhaps moved into number 1. Roundtree's gone up to 6. Reyes up to 12. Strange. But in terms of what's next for Rakic, 3 straight losses against absolute killers. I've said it on a previous Aftermath show, literally the last one. We discussed it then. Got to be Khalil Roundtree, right? I said Khalil Roundtree deserves the shot up after a decent performance against the champion. Let's see where he fits in that top 5 bracket, because he's got some skills. There's no denying that. He deserves at least a crack at it. And I think that Rakic is your guy. I said the loser of Ankalaev versus Rakic is going to be there for Roundtree. So the UFC have got to make that next. Of course, Khalil's got to heal up. Rakic probably needs a lot of time to heal up as well because he's had injuries in the past. So, yeah, it's all out stand-up affair. You kind of see in Rakic, I mean, okay, he's not had a title fight as such, but you kind of see him in a similar bracket to Paulo Costa in a way, where, he didn't really deserve to fight Ankalaev after coming off of 2 straight losses, but the UFC had to make a fight. and that was the best that they could give him at the time. So yeah, I'd give him Khalil Roundtree. Personally, who wins? I'd favour Roundtree in that at the moment. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? And it's a perfect fight for Roundtree to get back on the horse. Yeah. Okay. Let's head on back then to our co-main event, guys. Thanks for sticking by. Hit that like button as well. Make sure you do. It helps us on the channel. Now, before we talk about this fight, I just want to play this particular clip from our breakdown show, which was last Wednesday, featuring myself and the wonderful Ash talking about this one. I think it's either Whittaker decision or Chimaev submission round 1.
Yeah.
And I could very well picture in my head Chimaev being able to get Rob down first instance, making his way to the back and securing a rear naked choke along the cage, and then celebrating wild into the crowd afterwards. Bosh, there you go. What did I say? What did I say? Okay, I got the bit wrong where I said he's going to celebrate into the crowd and go wild. He didn't do that bit, but I did say that if Chimaev is going to win, it's round 1, rear naked choke against the cage, and that's exactly basically what happened. All right, it might go down as a bit of a jaw crank? He was the rear naked choke position. I'm just getting the rankings up for my end as well. Wait, I'm going. Yeah, Khamzat number 10. Did it actually go down as a? It says on Wikipedia face crank, but come on, guys, you got to give it to me. It was it was basically the rear naked choke position. All right, almost there, right? Almost there. Yeah, man, what a explosive performance. I think Chimaev kind of needed that. Having been away for some time, we all had our doubts about him when he was going to return. He's had, I think, apparently like issues with his health, been moving with his other half and child around all over the place. This is what I'm hearing. So he hasn't had a great year. Does this mean that he's going to redeem himself next year and we're going to see more of him? I mean, look, I've said this probably this time last year. You know, he's not been that active and we need to see more of him. And with this result now, puts him in title contention, but it's a big gamble for the UFC in a lot of ways. We don't know what circumstances are. I hear he's had visa issues and he can only fight in Abu Dhabi, and he can't fight in the US. I also believe that if Trump gets elected, well, we're not going to talk about US politics on this show too much, but if Trump does get elected, I feel that Khamzat will get the pardon and be allowed back into the US to fight. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess, next month. But, look, excellent performance. He did exactly what was expected, secured that takedown early, and got the back mount. He's now 3rd in the division. But do you think the UFC will move Strickland aside and let Khamzat fight for the belt instead? Given what Strickland has been talking about on social media, I've not looked too much into it, but it does feel like the UFC are on the verge of announcing something for January. They need fights to announce soon for that month. What have we got at the moment? We don't have anything pay-per-view wise. Oh, we know that UFC 311. Oh no, we don't know the location for that. I'd suspect it'd be UFC 311. You've all got Gelson Almeida, Sergey Spivak on the card. Johnny Walker versus Bogdan Guskov, which got announced today. So maybe the main event is due to be finalized and could very well get announced in the next few weeks. The fact they don't have a venue also makes me wonder whether or not they are going to South Africa. But if they are, they'd announce it pretty damn soon. You know, they've announced 312 is going to be in Australia. Interesting. Yeah, that would be my guess. Is perhaps Strickland versus Drickless is happening in South Africa. So yeah, I don't think the UFC will move Strickland aside. But who would you rather see Khamzat Chimaev fight? Would you rather see him Drickless Duplessis, or would you rather see him fight Sean Strickland? And can he do the same to those guys, as he did with Robert Whittaker? Yes. Definitely can see that. Who would I rather have? Personally, I think it's got to be Drickus because of how unpredictable he is and the different tools that he possesses. I think he's going to be maybe... But then at the same time, you've got Strickland, who's got very good takedown defense, right? And is a pressure fighter. But part of me also thinks that Khamzat versus Strickland isn't going to be very entertaining. Both of them have trained together before. There's going to be some kind of level of mutual respect. So surely Drickus is going to be more entertaining, maybe pose a bit more of a threat to Chimaev. And don't get me wrong, we saw Drickus get taken down by Robert Whittaker with some ease. But Drickus has got that grit, man, that is like none other. He's got that South African grit. And I think if there's a guy that's going to fight out of positions, it could be Drickus. And survive perhaps from a longer duration. I don't know, guys. Who would you rather see? Drickus or Strickland for Chimaev? Yeah, who has the better counter wrestling? Some could argue it's actually Strickland who has better counter wrestling, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not really seen too much of it in this division. Who's the biggest threat on the feet out of the two? Another tough one. You've got Strickland, who's got good boxing, good, the use of that shell, that Philly shell, modified Philly shell, they call it. So surely maybe you'd go Strickland for that reason. But then Drickus is very unpredictable, throws a lot more kicks, opens up to the body, switch stances. Personally, size going with Strickland. Rather Strickland. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going with Drickus. Feeling for Drickus, to be honest. With that. Yeah, get your thoughts in the chats or in the comment section if you're catching this the next day or by any other platform as well. For Robert Whittaker then, people did wonder why he tapped so quickly, but the image shown after the fight revealed something like out of Game of Thrones. Like his lower jaw was shattered from the force of Khamzat's squeeze. Like it was like the mountain when he crushed Prince Oberyn in season 4. Like it was like that almost. That's what it looked like. Horrifying stuff. And with a character like Khamzat, you'd expect him to be in something like Game of Thrones as well, just putting on an absolute clinic and mortifying people, like ripping them completely open and to shreds. But post-fight, Robert Whittaker actually revealed that he broke that area of his jaw and shattered his teeth when he was 19 years old. And the doctors put a metal plate there. Question with this, did Khamzat target it on purpose? Did he know about this? Because this was actually said in the build-up to the fight. Did Khamzat in that position realise, oh, I've got it under the chin. He's going to be cooked if I squeeze here. And clearly that was it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I don't know what you guys think. Yes, Piccolo. Sulawesi. I don't know how you say that, brother, but welcome on in. Shara on the rankings. WTF? Did you think he shouldn't have been on the rankings? I know. I wasn't expecting it either, mate. I wasn't expecting it either. Against someone like Petrosian. Petrosian is good, but he maybe not one of the guys. I don't know. Someone who's just outside of the rankings. I mean, he's what? What did I say earlier? He's 2 and 3 in the UFC now. Maybe not. Breezy says, I think Dricus is the better fight. I think Chimaev mauls Strickland. However, Dricus' way of launching at someone would easily timed by Chimaev. Yes, that is a good point, Breezy. I actually did think about that as well. I do think that's a bit of a threat there, and Dricus could leave himself exposed. Or is Chimaev just going to do what Chimaev always does and just close distance and level change straight away, you know? I think if you are Chimaev, maybe you should hold back a little bit. Holland, I think, said Piccolo. Interesting. Holland. But you'd have given him Kevin Holland. I mean, look, Kevin Holland's fought Khamzat, and they want to give him all of these Chechenian guys. I think Holland should get a better fight than that, I'm afraid. Yeah, I wouldn't give him that. But yeah, thanks for your chat, buddy. Hit that like button, my brother. From another mother. So yeah, that's basically all I've got on that fight at the moment. Thanks for your comments, guys. Absolute top stuff at the moment. Kevin, is that you? Breezy. Kevin. Let's head on to talk about the main event, shall we? Let's talk about this main event. Ilia Topuria picking up that win against Max Holloway. Who thought this was going to happen? We anticipated it on the channel. We did. I was calling for it being a knockout. I felt it was the time that Max Holloway fell to a knockout in the UFC, and there was no other better person to do it than Ilia Topuria. The first round was close. 2 judges scored it to Topuria, though, and you know, we were debating on the watch along at the time. We felt that some felt that maybe Max did enough to get the round. He looked solid in the latter end of the first round, but to me, I viewed it as fairly even on the feet and with the strikes. Maybe Topuria had a bit more of the wow factors with the strikes that he landed, but he did secure a takedown in that round. So I did feel that he got the round for that reason. All 3 judges scored the second round to Topuria as well. And then that knockout came on the third, which, look, the way he goes to the body and works up top when his opponent's against the cage is joy to watch. Now, Topuria put Max there. And coming into this fight, I did worry that for Topuria a little bit, because Max is good, has good movement on the feet. He barely gets backed up towards the cage. But it was from Topuria landing some solid shots in the center, which caused Max to back up towards the cage. And as soon as he was there, he was in survival mode. If you get put in survival mode, Topuria is going in for the kill. And he did exactly like that. He did exactly that. Piccolo says, I was like, WTF, he drops Max. Did you not even see it coming? Round 1, 10-9, Topuria. Round 2, 10-9, Max. So that's how he had it. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, who knows what round 4 and 5 could have been like for Topuria. We're yet to see Topuria in those areas. And we did suspect that Max would kind of take over the fight and that. And I did kind of have almost a thought of maybe a similar thing to what we saw in the last pay-per-view in the Juliana Pena Rocky Pennington fight, where the first round was the closest round, and that from there on it would be very clear. But look, Topuria, man, he's an absolute stud, and it's going to be difficult to see who dethrones him, I think. Don't get me wrong. I think Diego Lopez poses some threats there. If Topuria needs another grappling threat, the way he dealt with Ryan Hall was sublime. Shut him down instantly. Didn't allow him to ankle pick him. Any of that. But Ryan Hall suffers on the feet. Diego Lopez, on the other hand, he's a berserker on the feet. Guy keeps going forward and throws wild shots. But I think Topuria can telegraph them. Topuria could get takedowns against Lopez, but Lopez is going to be a threat off his back. Can Topuria survive that threat is what we're intrigued about most about that fight. Sai says Topuria was the hammer, Max was the nail all fight long. Breezy says the hand speed is unraveled in the division. Volk is one of the division's GOATs, but I think Lopez should either challenge or fight Volk first. Piccolo says Diego Lopez exposes his chin. Easy for Topuria. Yeah, I kind of see that as well, mate. Breezy says Ryan would have been okay if he didn't get off the Imanari rolls. True. Yeah, maybe. Maybe he should have had Topuria anticipating those takedowns a little bit more, and maybe should have been a bit more confident on the feet. Easy to say, right? Easy to say against Topuria. But lots to talk about in regards to Ilia Topuria now, because what should be next for him is the question. I think he's got a lot of options. So does Max. They brought Volk into the octagon after the fight. Topuria said he's open to giving this man and a legend the rematch, which should be the next move. And then in that case, you got Diego Lopez waiting out again a little bit more. I mean, Lopez is game as they come. I do feel like he probably would be tempted to take another fight. But look, if you're anyone, if you're Lopez, you're going to wait it out, right? Piccolo says, for me, Lopez Volk for the shot. Could be an option. I think, I was listening into what he was saying on Ariel's show earlier, and he definitely wants Volk next. And he feels that maybe Topuria might take a bit more time out. I think the UFC will assess things with him. Still ongoing talks about bringing the UFC to Spain, Santiago Bernabeu. I mean, we talked about this back in February. It's not going to be straightforward. The UFC are going to take the time with it, but who knows? If it happens next year, amazing. I hope we see it. But if you're going to do that fight, would it still be Volk or would it be someone else? Would it be someone else? Because, have I gone off again? I have. Yeah, because going into this bit here, we'll talk about that in a sec. Something that was Kamaru Usman mentioned on his podcast with Henry Cejudo. He seems to think that the UFC should book McGregor versus Topuria in Spain to allow Topuria to become a superstar like Conor. Is this the right move to make, though? If you're the UFC, it could very well be. Because Usman said to send him to the moon right now, why not give him Conor at 55, a stadium in Spain? He becomes the next Conor McGregor. And after reading that, I suddenly thought, I've had my suspicions that there have been contract issues with the UFC and Conor, right? We don't know why he's not been rebooked. He should be healthy now. They should be getting him a fight. I suspected that the UFC wanted him to sign a new deal before getting him into a new fight. That clearly hasn't happened. He's got, apparently 1 or 2 fights left on the contract. If you're the UFC, you make that Topuria fight. If Topuria beats Conor, He's the megastar. Conor just loses more fans in a way. Loads more people are going to gravitate towards Topuria, who's got this insane resume. He would have defeated 3 former featherweight champions by knockout as well. What? How could you not be on this guy's side, even if you're a casual, right? And if you're also the UFC, that almost like saves you, because you'd suspect that Conor would run his contract out, or try and run his contract out, and go on to do these crazy boxing fights, right? And we all know how that's going at the moment, don't we? Francis Ngannou's getting paid more money, but he's not selling the pay-per-views. Conor could still probably perhaps sell pay-per-views besides the UFC, possible. But are we just a little bit sick of Conor McGregor now? You're the UFC, do you take that gamble? Do you put Topuria in that spotlight? But if Conor wins, Conor will run his mouth. Topuria can go back to featherweight. Doesn't really do much there. If anything, that does increase Conor's legacy to come out all that time. But Conor's, I think, way big for lightweight in a way. Too big for lightweight. Let's have a look at some more chats. Piccolo says, in Australia, like 5 rounds in co-main event. I think he's referring to Lopez Volk. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, buddy. Maybe McGregor. No, Diaz, Conor, move. Diaz, McGregor, move. Surely that should be the last fight on Conor's contract. If he's not renewing. The UFC, you got to make that. I mean, it's still doable if you make Topuria. Conor loses Topuria. The Conor Nate fight, it's still going to sell, but probably should have sold a lot more 3 years ago, you know? Plus, even more. I don't think people are going to be too bothered about that. And I think Nate, in a way, has damaged his reputation a little bit as well. Just the way he's carried himself in these boxing fights. Done with Jake Paul. You know, he's just there to show up for the paycheck at the end of the day. Sai says, don't forget, Evelev is there for title eliminator too. Got to beat Aljamain Sterling. Got to beat Aljamain Sterling. But at the moment, who's above him? Diego Lopez. Who's the fan favourite? Diego Lopez. Who's the person that the UFC are going to push more because he's got some hype behind him? Diego Lopez. Yeah, and I think that Evelev's going to get the Ankalaev treatment. Evelev, he is the Bilal of the division, says Piccolo. Yeah, there is a few Bilals of the division popping up. Every division's nearly got a Bilal. Piccolo says McGregor, Holloway, BMF. Yeah, I mean, I was going to get into that. Yes, George Merry's in the house. Good evening, guys. Sorry I'm late. Mate, we've been discussing your option, I mean, we'll get into more of that in a sec. We're not actually on your topic that you suggested. We'll get into that in a sec. Heading on back into here, though, just for you guys to see more of the division there. Lots to talk about with these upcoming matchups. Oh, man. Chats are flooding through. Piccolo says Mexican and Brazilian audience. Yeah. Yeah, I've also got that as an option, BMF belt for Holloway. He's got options, plenty of options, I think, at lightweight. I think he should stay at lightweight. He could very well fight Conor McGregor. I do. I think he should run with that, for sure. The UFC might have been already looking at it, because did the UFC move Conor from the Chandler fight because the Holloway fight would actually sell more, if they were anticipating Holloway losing to Topuria, perhaps? Right? I think it was clear that the fans made their opinions heard. The UFC actually listened. fans wanted to move her on from the Conor Chandler stuff. So that probably has most of it. But maybe they did keep him away from the Chandler fight because there was a bigger fight that they could potentially make. And maybe Holloway is that one. I would say it is. Bigger fight than Chandler fight. Or they could also run it back with Dustin Poirier for the BMF belt. There's a rematch there. Do you guys want to see that? Which one would you rather see? You want to see Max Holloway defend his BMF belt against Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier? I guess it depends which more of a fan you are, right? Of course, anyone would love to see Conor McGregor back again. For Poirier, there isn't really much left for him. I kind of feel like it's either a trilogy with Gaethje or Max Holloway at this rate. You know? What do you reckon? What do you guys reckon? That's all I got for Max Holloway, but that's, I think, the kind of the options that we're talking about here. Really. Okay, one other thing that I want to talk about before we get into the fight of the year conversation. Smash a like on the video, guys. I did want to talk about this little hot take here from a journalist called Chisanga Malata. See that right? It's really small on my screen. Who said the lineage of the UFC featherweight title is arguably the best of any belt ever held in the history of mixed martial arts. Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, Alex Volkanovski, Ilia Topuria. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I do think it's possible. I mean, part of it might be because there hasn't been many champions. Most of them have been long reigns, apart from Conor and Topuria, of course. Volks hold the belt for years. Max has held it for quite... How many years did Max... I think it was similar, right? Max has held it for a similar number of time. Let's have a look. And then Jose Aldo, I mean, was undefeated for over 6 years and held it in the WEC. So, Topuria, I mean, Holloway, beat... Won the interim belt of Pettis. Won the unified belt in 2017. Lost it in 2019. Oh, not that long, actually. But, yeah. But it's still crazy, really, just how many champions we've had. I think it kind of almost says a lot about how good of a mixed martial artist we've got at featherweight. Don't get me wrong, I do think that there's other talent stacked divisions, but I think featherweight has had almost a bit of a balance, really, of not being the biggest well stacked, but also having like a solid top 5, right? And top overall mixed martial artist, great in every facet of the game. So I think that might be part of it. Strickland Drickus in Australia, Piccolo. Yeah, I've talked about that. I do think that. Conor Topuria sounds strange. It does a little bit at lightweight as well. Yeah, I know it does. But look, again, going back to this kind of topic, it's another champion for Topuria to take out. Granted, it's in a different weight class, but it says a lot about Topuria, doesn't it? Right? It says a lot about his what the future holds for him, and he's what, only 28, 29? Madness. I'm going to take us back into this scene with the rankings because actually, no, I think we're done talking about overall matchups. Then let's talk about let's go back to the home screen. Then let's talk about Ilia Topuria and whether or not he is the fighter of the year 2024, because it's a bit of a conversation that George brought up to us on Sunday. There are some solid arguments there. The two people in debate at the moment are Alex Pereira, who's had a phenomenal year. 3 title fights. He's been called up last minute to defend the belt and done it probably on 2 occasions. And he's knocked out all 3 of those opponents. Okay, granted, one of those opponents, people would argue, didn't really deserve the title shot, but got it anyway. But nonetheless, Khalil Roundtree was a threat on the feet, and Pereira took him out. Yes, Piccolo, Pereira saved the UFC. True. But the argument for Topuria, though, yes, he's only fought twice this year, but they're back-to-back wins against 2 of the best ever featherweights of all time. And he KO'd them both as well. So that does have some weight to it. And I like George's points, and which he was bringing to me. I just feel like the guys in the higher up weight classes do get a bit more rub, don't they? The bigger guys, they do. That's just been history. The lower guys in the lower divisions have been much more talent stacked. On the other hand, so I don't know where I swing with this. It is very 50-50, and maybe perhaps we should do a poll about it. That'd be a good idea. It's a coin flip. It really is. Part of me wants to go with Pereira, and I usually go with the person at the end of the year who's had the most fights. The fact that Pereira has saved the UFC several times on short notice, I think, outweighs Topuria's sides a little bit here. You know, the pros and cons. The fact he's been able to do that has been insane, and he hasn't been 100% healthy. He's had like toe issues and all sorts, right? But still KO'd Yuri and still KO'd Jamal Hill at UFC 300 and battled Khalil Roundtree, who had some success early on, but finished him in impressive style at the 4th round in the end, 3rd or 4th. So, yeah, I think that's where I stand at the moment. But look, it's close. And Topuria has been a bit of a fan favourite for me. I've had a soft spot for Topuria ever since he kind of beat Josh Emmett, I think. You know, when he really put on his skills against Josh Emmett, which some would say was his best performances. You know, we got to see more of him. But now he's just in this... He has this championship aura about him. I think it's only going to increase. I think we'll only see him twice next year. We might even see Alex Pereira twice next year. Hard to tell who's going to be fighter of the year, though. It really is. Maybe the best person to have moments is going to be the person who only fights twice next year. Possible. Leo Cooper's in the house. And mate, just jumping in to say, hey, great to see Lerone get the nod. Ortega next, I reckon. Okay. Like your opinions there, mate. Love that, Leo. It's a possible one. Did mention it a little bit earlier on. But yeah, I would have given him Calvin Kattar. I think Ortega is a bit of a jump up for him. And just because Lerone isn't finishing guys, the UFC, I think, are going to give him small steps still. Yeah, that's my only option. But I love it. I love the matchup. Stylistically, it's a great one. Ortega needs to fight someone fighting up. But I don't know. Maybe I'd personally give Ortega Emmett as an option. I still kind of ride with that option. But yeah, thanks, Leo. Love that. Good to see you in the chats as always, my brother. Any final thoughts before I wrap this show up, guys? Because you guys have been amazing. Or let's tweak that again. Watch. Oh. Camera has, like, completely gone off. There we go. We're back. I really need to sort this out. Wasn't connecting to my laptop lately. Yeah, awesome stuff. What did George say? The Roundtree fight tested Alex, and Ilia didn't seem to be tested by the 2 featherweight goats. My opinion, Ilia, just based off of who they beat to get the title and who they defended against. And look, that's a solid point. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer in this. Fan opinions matter most on this channel, as you all know. And look, you make a solid case there, George. You really do. Man, George is on fire with this one. Is Ilia been your favourite fighter of the year? He might be up there with mine as well. George says Lerone called Nathaniel Wood shit on his comment on Instagram. Was that lately? I mean, it's crazy that those two had beef, didn't they? And nearly fought. It's a shame that Nathaniel Wood hasn't fell short, really, didn't it? Didn't carry on climbing. I hope they do fight one day. I think just to get that over and done with, get that out of the way. But I don't know. Who knows? Lerone keeps climbing, and I think he will keep climbing. All right, guys. I'm gonna have to end it there. Smash your comments in the comment section if you tuned in the next day. Would love to continue to hear your opinions. Don't forget to hit that notifications bell on our channel as well. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Hit the like on the video, and make sure you join us this weekend. We'll be live, I think, from 12 a.m. in the UK for Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. That fight card is looking pretty juicy. So make sure you got that bell rang and you join us. Don't watch alone. Watch along with a community, with some other passionate fight fans who could talk about this sport all day long, all night long. And that's the reason why we come here and enjoy the fights together. So yeah, we'll hope to see you at the event. Get some good rest. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you at the weekend. Bye for now, folks.